Welcome to EPG Pathshala. As part of the paper Methodology of Research in Sociology, we are discussing a module titled Theoretical Sampling, Saturation and Grounded Theory. The objective of this module is to introduce you to the use of the grounded theory method in sociological research. This includes introduction to the origin and development of grounded theory method. It will also describe the process involved in conducting grounded theory research. Let us look at the grounded theory origin. Grounded theory is a method of qualitative inquiry in which researchers develop inductive theoretical analysis from the empirical data and subsequently gather further data to check these analyses. Theory grounded in data, which have been systematically obtained through research. Grounded theory was first put forward by Glaser and Strauss when they studied the social organization of dying in hospitals. They articulated grounded theory as a specific methodological approach in their seminal work that is titled as the grounded theory. One of the important reasons for propounding grounded theory by Glaser and Strauss was that previous books on methods of social research have focused mainly on how to verify theories. This suggests an overemphasis in current sociology on the verification of theory and a resultant de-emphasis on the prior step of discovering what concepts and hypotheses are relevant for the area one wishes to research. In social research, generating theory goes hand in hand with verifying it, but many sociologists have diverted from this truism in their zeal to test either existing theories or a theory that they have barely started to generate. Therefore, Glaser and Strauss believed that qualitative inquiry could make significant theoretical and empirical contributions in its own right, rather than merely act as a precursor to quantitative research. And grounded theory as a specific methodological approach can provide a set of systematic guidelines for gathering data, coding, categorizing and integrating concepts to generate middle range theory. The key components of grounded theory are a spiral of cycles of data collection, coding, analysis, writing, design, theoretical categorization and data collection, the constant comparative analysis of cases with each other and to theoretical categories throughout each cycle, a theoretical sampling process based upon categories developed from ongoing data analysis. The size of sample is determined by the theoretical saturation of categories rather than by the need for demographic representativeness or simply lack of additional information from new cases. The resultant theory is developed inductively from data rather than tested by data, although the developing theory is continuously refined and checked by data. Codes emerge from data and are not imposed a priori upon it. The substantive and or formal theory outlined in the final report takes into account all the variations in the data and conditions associated with these variations. The report is an analytical product rather than a purely descriptive account. Process involved in conducting grounded theory research. The first step in this is the identification of a research problem. The process starts with an interest in an area one wishes to explore. Usually, researchers adopt grounded theory when the topic of interest has been relatively ignored in the literature or has been given only superficial attention. Consequently, the researcher's mission is to build his or her own theory from the ground. Following are the motivations for taking up grounded theory study. First, the point of departure can be based on lacks or gaps in a particular discipline, that is, the research questions resulting from earlier research, the lack of theoretical models, theories or explanations for a certain problem. Second, researchers' curiosity can lead them into taking something as a research problem for developing a grounded theory. Third, personal experience or concern of the researcher can also be a motivation for taking up a research problem. Fourth, the emergence of a new phenomenon or discovery of a new problem can be a motivation for doing grounded theory study. This process of identification gives the issue a specific shape Identification of an issue as a topic for study is followed by developing research questions which may be revised as the study progresses. Second step in the process of conducting grounded theory research is identifying relevant contexts, persons or events. After identifying a research problem for which a lack of empirical analysis or theoretical explanation can be noted, the next step will be to identify the suitable context in which the researcher can start the study. For example, Flick illustrates how chronic illness among the homeless adolescents is an issue which has not been adequately analyzed empirically or theoretically. After identifying the research problem, Flick writes that the next question was where to find this situation more systematically, where to locate the potential participants, what kind of chronic illness would be most instructive as a starting point for developing a first understanding of this phenomena, etc. Third aspect of grounded theory research is theoretical sampling. Once the research problem, context and people have been identified, the next step is sampling. Sampling has a profound effect on the quality of the research regardless of what methodological perspective and approach the researcher adopts. In grounded theory, sampling is directed by theory. Therefore, it is termed as theoretical sampling. It is an ongoing part of the process of data collection and analysis which in turn directs the researcher to further samples. Theoretical sampling is the purposeful selection of sample according to the developing categories and emerging theory. At times, researchers confuse theoretical sampling with purposeful sampling. While a qualitative project may contain both purposeful and theoretical sampling, purposeful sampling is not always theoretical. Glaser argues that purposeful sampling refers to the calculated decisions to sample a specific locale according to a preconceived but reasonable set of dimensions, that is space, time, identity or power, which are worked out in advance of the study. The analyst who uses theoretical sampling cannot know in advance what to sample for and where it will lead. With grounded theory, groups are chosen when they are needed rather than before the research. Initially, the researcher will go to the most obvious places and the most likely informants in search of information. However, as concepts are identified and the theory starts to develop, further individual situations and places may need to be incorporated in order to strengthen the findings. Therefore, Glaser and Strauss observe that theoretical sampling is the process of data collection for generating theory whereby analyst jointly collects, codes and analyzes the data and decides what data to collect next and where to find it in order to develop the theory as it emerges. This process of data collection is controlled by the emerging theory, whether substantive or formal. In practical sense, while analyzing studies based on grounded theory, it has been found that the beginning of research is based on selection through convenience sampling, which allows the researcher to get in with the initial cases in the field. Then researcher goes on with purposeful sampling for locating the specific cases pertaining to the research questions. The next aspect in grounded theory research is data collection. Unlike other qualitative methodologies which acknowledge only one source of data, for example, the words of those under study as in the case of phenomenology, grounded theory research may be based on single or multiple sources of data. These might include secondary data, life histories, interviews, introspection, observations, and memos. Glaser discusses the adaptability of the method, proposing that grounded theory method, although uniquely suited to fieldwork and qualitative data, can be easily used as a general method of analysis with any form of data collection, that is survey, experiment, case study, etc. Further, it can combine and integrate them. It transcends specific data collection methods. The strength of grounded theory is in its adaptability. It also transcends by inclusion and integration at a higher level previous descriptions and theories about an area and uses them to create a dense integrated theory of greater scope. Memo writing. Memo writing is an important tool in grounded theory that bridges coding and report writing. Memos are analytic notes covering all the researcher's ideas and questions about the codes that occur at the moment. They help map out the emerging theory and are used to identify concepts and their properties. Essentially, memos are ideas which have been noted during the data collection process and which help to reorient the researcher at a later date. Memos help to generate relationships, abstract integrative frameworks, and more general problems. They are also an excellent source of direction for future theoretical sampling. There are certain advices suggested by theorists or researchers in using memos. They are: first one, always give priority to memoing. When an idea strikes, stop whatever else you are doing and write the memo. Your audience is yourself. Get it down. Don't worry about prose elegance or even grammar. Include your musings of all sorts, even the fuzzy and foggy ones. Give yourself the freedom to think. Don't self-censor. Second, memoing should begin as soon as the first field data start coming in and usually should continue right up the production of the final report. Memoing contributes strongly to the development or revision of the coding system. Third, keep memos sortable. Caption them by basic concept and mark or underline other concepts discussed in the text of the memo. Like coded data, memos can be sorted and retrieved by using wide variety of methods. Fourth, once again, memos are about ideas. Simply recounting data examples is not enough. By the same token, memos are not chiefly about people or events or interactions. These are all used as indicators for an analysis that is set in a conceptual frame. Fifth, don't standardize memo formats or types, especially in a multi-researcher study. Memoing styles are distinctive and memo types are as various as the imagination can reach. Sixth, memo writing is fun and it often provides sharp sunlit moments of clarity or sunlight. Analysis through coding. Coding data is an important aspect of grounded theory. Coding, according to Bremen, entails reviewing transcripts and or field notes and giving labels to component parts that seem to be of potential theoretical significance and or that appear to be particularly salient within the social worlds of those being studied. Coding in grounded theory is tentative and tends to be in a state of revision and fluidity. Strauss and Corbin, based upon their approach to grounded theory, argue that analysis in grounded theory is composed of three major types of coding. They are open coding. It is the process of breaking down, examining, comparing, conceptualizing, and categorizing data. Open coding is the part of analysis that pertains specifically to the naming and categorizing of the phenomena through close examination of data. Without this first basic analytical step, rest of the analysis and communication that follows could not take place. During open coding, the data are broken down into discrete parts, closely examined, compared for similarities and differences, and questions are asked about the phenomena as reflected in the data. After identifying particular phenomena in data, researcher begins to group concepts around them. According to Strauss and Corbin, this is done to reduce the number of units with which we have to work. The process of grouping concepts that seem to pertain to the same phenomena is called categorizing. Axial coding. It is a set of procedures whereby data are put back together in new ways after open coding by making connections between categories. This is done by linking codes to contexts, to consequences, to patterns of interactions, and to causes. It is termed axial because coding occurs around the axis of a category, linking categories at the level of properties and dimensions. The purpose of axial coding is to begin the process of reassembling data that were fractured during open coding. In axial coding, categories are related to other subcategories to form more precise and complete explanations about phenomena. Selective coding. It is a procedure of selecting the core category, systematically relating it to other categories, validating those relationships, and filling in categories that need further refinement and development. Selective coding is the process of integrating and refining categories. The first step in integrating is deciding on a central category. The central category represents the main theme of the research. Constant comparison. One of the fundamental features of grounded theory is the application of the constant comparative method. By comparing where the facts are similar or different, we can generate properties of categories that increase the category's generality and explanatory powers. Constant comparison, according to Bremen, refers to a process of maintaining a close connection between data and conceptualization so that the correspondence between concepts and categories with their indicators is not lost. More specifically, attention to the procedure of constant comparison enjoins the researcher constantly to compare phenomena being coded under a certain category so that a theoretical elaboration of that category can begin to emerge. Theoretical saturation. When do you stop gathering data? What criteria do you use? The standard short ground theory answer to the criteria question dictates that stop when your categories are saturated. Theoretical saturation, according to Glaser and Strauss, occurs after many rounds of coding where no new categories emerge from the process. Once this point is reached, further data collection no longer is productive. Theoretical saturation is a process that pertains to coding of data and collection of data. In terms of coding of data, it refers to a stage when there is no further point for a researcher in reviewing their data whether they fit with their concepts or categories. In terms of collection of data, it refers to a stage when no longer new data are able to illuminate the concept or category. When similar incidences occur over again, the researcher may feel confident that the category is saturated. As Glaser and Strauss have rightly pointed out, after an analyst has coded incidents for the same category a number of times, he learns to see quickly whether or not the next applicable incident points to a new aspect. If yes, then the incident is coded and compared. If no, the incident is not coded, since it only adds bulk to the coded data and nothing to theory. Identifying structure and developing a theoretical model. Flick highlights that the aim of coding are always twofold. One, to develop and unfold an understanding of the issue or field under study first, which demands an open access to what should be coded and how. Second, the aim is to identify an underlying structure, an organizing principle, a basic social process or core category. Similarly, Glaser distinguishes between substantive and theoretical coding. In case of substantive coding, researcher can use either words, concepts from the language of the field, or words, concepts drawn from the scientific or sociological terminology. Theoretical coding then aims at identifying relations among such substantive codes as next step towards formulating a theory. Theory is a set of well-developed categories that are systematically related through statements of relationship to form a theoretical framework that explains some relevant social or other phenomena. Grounded theorists have pointed out two levels of theory: substantive theory and formal theory. Substantive theory relates to a theory in a certain empirical instance or substantive area, whereas formal theory is at a higher level of abstraction and has a wider range of applicability to several substantive areas. Criteria for evaluating grounded theory studies. The criteria used for evaluating grounded theory studies are as follows. Credibility. The questions raised here are: has your research achieved intimate familiarity with the setting or topic? Are the data sufficient to merit your claims? Consider the range, number and depth of observations contained in the data. Have you made systematic comparisons between observations and between categories? Do the categories cover a wide range of empirical observations? Are there strong logical links between the gathered data and your argument and analysis? Has your research provided enough evidence for your claims to allow the reader to form an independent assessment and agree with your claims? Then the questions about originality. Are your categories fresh? Do they offer new insights? Does your analysis provide a new conceptual rendering of the data? What is the social and theoretical significance of this work? How does your grounded theory challenge, extend or refine current ideas, concepts and practices? Then the questions about resonance. Do the categories portray the fullness of the studied experience? Have you revealed both liminal and unstable taken for granted meanings? Have you drawn links between larger collectives or institutions and individual lives when the data so indicate? Does your grounded theory make sense to your participants or people who share their circumstances? Does your analysis offer them deeper insights about their lives and worlds? Then the questions about usefulness. Does your analysis offer interpretations that people can use in their everyday worlds? Do your analytic categories suggest any generic process? If so, have you examined these generic processes for tacit implications? Can the analysis spark further research in other substantive areas? How does your work contribute to knowledge? How does it contribute to making a better world? Limitations of grounded theory. Practical limitations. In many cases, researcher has to submit an elaborate research design for the proposed study and need to specify sample size, etc., and possible implications of study before the research committee or a funding agency. But in grounded theory research, many of these decisions are to be taken by the researcher during the process of research. Grounded theory research is time-taking. The time taken to transcribe recordings or of interviews, for example, can make it difficult for researchers, especially when they have tight deadlines, to carry out a genuine grounded theory analysis with constant interplay of data collection and conceptualization. Presence of competing versions of grounded theory research. Different versions of conducting grounded theory research, Glazerian or Straussian or Charmasian version, can be confusing for a researcher who wants to use grounded theory as a tool in his or her research. However, as Flick suggests, one could try to see the common core of methodological approach in the different versions of grounded theory methodology and see the differences in the detail more as alternative ways of how to proceed depending on your research questions. Despite these limitations, which all methods have, grounded theory is considered to be an influential strategy for conducting qualitative data analysis. It is particularly useful when a topic of interest has been relatively ignored in the literature or has been given only superficial attention. In such a scenario, grounded theory research helps the researcher in systematically building his or her own theory from the ground. To conclude, while going through this module, you would have got familiarity with what is grounded theory and its uses. In the process of reading the historical development of grounded theory, you would have become aware of different versions of conducting grounded theory research. This module would have helped you in understanding the process involved in grounded theory and the criteria used for evaluating grounded theory studies.